Even though GPA doesn't matter much now, I'm going to try to build the smartest college football team and not stop until we win a national championship. Now you might be wondering, with no way to track GPA in the game, how will this even be possible? I'll only be able to recruit players that have an interest in academic prestige, and using Stanford, the number 2 team in the country for that, we should have no issue getting them here. The real problems though are most of the top players don't have academic prestige as one of their 3 interests, and I'm going to recruit a lot of players that prioritize other stuff, but by the time that we discover that, we've already been recruiting them for like half the season. Outside of that, besides playing on Heisman and only hopping into 3 regular season games a year, there's no other rules. I just gotta rebuild Stanford until we lift that natty trophy. The very first thing I'm already figuring out is you can see over on that right bottom corner, we need to get a check mark for academic prestige. If it's not one of their 3 interests, I can't recruit them, and that goes for no players besides this one 4-star athlete. Jojo Cookus is a 92 speed running back. He actually cares about academic prestige, so he's the first player that we can send the house on. And if there's any players where we unlock their 3 interests and none of them have to do with academic prestige, we just have to go ahead, remove them from our board. I'll also put hours into other players, but by the time we unlock their motivations, if they're not academic prestige, it's just a waste of hours, which is very frustrating to think about. If there's any tree we're going to go down with our head coach, it's got to be recruiter. I would love to get to tier 3 so we can catch up in battles that maybe we get a little bit behind on. But I don't think I've even talked about the schedule that we have to play in this first season with Stanford, or the roster that we're using that is only going to be a 76 overall. We actually have a few really solid seniors that could help us a little bit, but our quarterback Ashton Daniels transferred out, so we're going to have to start Elijah Brown. And fortunately for us, this kid is a freshman with very few skill caps, so we have somebody at this position that can hold it down for a while we figure out how to recruit. I really don't know if you can even build a full team of players that care about academic prestige, but I'm trying to build the smartest team in this game. We're going to give it a shot. And as time goes on, I'm going to be able to figure out more players that also care about their academics. As far as I'm concerned, there's only 3 hard sell pitches that have to do with academic prestige, so if the players don't care about some of these specific interests, then there's no chance they can even care about it. So if we find players that start to unlock motivations for stuff outside of stadium atmosphere, proximity to home, campus lifestyle, and coach prestige, we can immediately take them off of the board. It's a pretty simple check to have, and I think in the long run, it's going to save us a lot of time because we'll be able to not put hours into players that we can never have a chance at getting. Here's the thing though, outside of recruiting, where I'm already having to use my brain way too much, we also have to start to win games. Because if we can't win against schools like BYU, players are still going to have no reason to commit here, even if they do care about their academics, so we need to win this. I know the Cougars are coming off of a really good season, but I'm putting a lot of faith in quarterback Elijah Brown. And from the looks of it, he wears a glove on his right hand which he throws with, which is going to lead to the interception. It totally was not my bad read. Believe it or not, turnovers like that have made it pretty hard to beat BYU. But our defense has still shut them down, holding them to just 16 points. We aren't out of it yet. What we do in these final few minutes is going to be extremely important. And if you look at the back of the end zone, you can see our tree mascot just sitting there, but I need to look in another direction. I should have been trying to find an open receiver there on 2nd and goal. It looks like we're going to have our underneath route, but that probably won't get us in, which is why we're just going to hand this ball off, and that's a touchdown. With about 2 minutes left, there is some hope, but we have to be able to get the Cougars off of the field, and they're going nowhere. If I had to guess, I'd assume that they're going to run the ball again, but they went with a pass. It's off target, and here we go. 3rd and 7. I think we're going to be able to hold them, though if they scramble for a first down, I'm trying to click on and we can't do anything. Now we know for sure they're going to run the football, but we still have to be able to stop them, and I knew that they were going to go to the right side. Since we have no timeouts left, it'd be perfect if they pass the ball on 3rd down, but they still get the first. And all of that effort is going to have us coming up short versus the Cougars. That was not exactly ideal, but we have found up to 5 players now that value academic prestige that we can target, including Joel, a quarterback that only has 83 throw power. He's also a 3-star bust, but we just need him. The guys that care about academic prestige are going to be pretty rare, though we have found another 4-star running back that actually values it. He has 91 speed and the 360 ability. So we are making a little bit of progress, but we're about to play our rivals San Jose State, and they're the higher overall. Only being able to hop into 3 regular season games a year, this is something I'd typically avoid. But these schools are very close to each other in the Bay Area. I don't want to fall to the Spartans, and we're going to be on a 4th and 3. Elijah Brown was not quick enough to pick up the first down for us, but he can get a dart out to Rosh. And I think one thing I've been able to pick up on is our offense is going to struggle throughout this season. We're not scoring many points. That's why it's a good thing we're recruiting 2 4-star running backs. If we're patient enough right here, I think we're going to be able to run it in. And we have those high overall defensive seniors to get us us a stop. I just know that if we don't pick up a win in these first few games, we could have a very long year. And this is kind of what we were hoping for. It's 4th and 5. They can't go to their check down because I was usering it. And if we just pick up one first down, this one will be completely over. Here we go. It is 3rd and 8. It is Elijah Brown's time to shine. I see the open tight end. He's been our check down all day. And there's going to be a lot of things this season that we are not good at. But we will at least be the best college in the Bay Area. The Bill Walsh legacy game belongs to Stanford. And I'm doing my best to take this program back to where it was 10-15 years ago, even if there's some players that want to transfer. That's cool to me though. If you're not going to prioritize your academics, then we don't need to have you here. That's how we're building up this program. It's just by the time that we figure out what players care about, sometimes it'll be too late. There is one hidden trick I've not talked about yet though. If there's a way to get players to care about academic prestige that don't prefer it from the start, it is using the sway method. It has a chance to convince them to care about these motivations. And I'm going to test it out in a few ways. For example, with Dykes, this wide receiver, he doesn't value campus lifestyle. It's already got an X on it, but we're going to pitch this and see if we can get that to flip. I have never used that feature in this game besides for this, so I'm really hoping it can make a difference. And it looks like we've been able to get our first signing, Edward Jones, a 3-star linebacker. Whenever it comes to these 4-star prospects though, I think it's going to be a little bit harder to get them to actually settle on our school. I've already noticed that with Mohammed Dykes, the guy that I was trying to sway, we're in first place for, it seems like there's no chance to get this to work. But what I found out with 4-star quarterback John Reynoso, he will actually value academic prestige, so we can now pitch him on this. We just have to catch up to Arizona State. I'm also starting to finally earn some coach points, so what we're going to do is we're going to get down to tier 3 for both quarterbacks and running backs, just so we can put more hours into those positions that are 4-star recruits. They care about academic prestige already. We just have to get them to sign to Stanford like JoJo Cookus just did. I'm just not sure how I'm going to do this for a 25-player class. It's taken a lot of time so far to build out the players that we're targeting, but what I did notice is we just unlocked campus personality for Mohammed Dykes. He finally flipped. He said he'd be open to those interests as well. But I think it's going to be too late, even if we have him on a visit next week against Pittsburgh. Going into that game, we beat Hawaii by a ton of points, but then North Carolina held us to 7. And we lost out on this battle for this 3-star athlete to Washington, but we've also made a lot of signings. There are 4 4-stars at the top of our board that we are still trying to bring in. I just don't think we're going to win them all. What it'll really come down to is how we do against the Panthers. If we pull off the upset, we'd be just fine. But if that doesn't happen, then we're going to stay at the bottom of the ACC standings. It stinks that this early into the season, I've already hopped into my 3 regular season games, but it is the first year of the rebuild. I'm just trying to learn what we need to do to be successful here. And even if we can't pull off the win, I want to at least try. We really didn't have too much of an issue in the first half scoring. It's just been our defense that's struggling, which is why I'm happy with how the second half has gone. We've continued to score. We just held them to a field goal. And a touchdown in the final 4 minutes would probably win us this game, but we got hit into an interception. I know that I didn't just put so much effort into us coming back for it to fall apart. And it actually might not have. They are going for it on 4th and 1 instead of just kicking a field goal, going up by 2 possessions, but we couldn't stop the run. This is embarrassing. All season, it has been our defense that's been our best thing. And then we finally have one good offensive game with a ton of huge 4-star recruits visiting. I wanted to get to commit, but I can't say it's looking too likely. I want to go for the 2-point conversion just in case we do somehow come back. But we're going to have to be able to stop the run, which is something that we just haven't done. I mean, I've literally put 10 dudes in the box here and they still found a hole. So we're just going to have to accept that Pittsburgh's the better team. We also have to deal with Eli Holstein for multiple years. And that loss is going to be the reason that we lose Dykes to UNLV and we lose John Reynoso to Arizona State. If you look over at the interest that they had though, both of these players had 5, so I think we were onto something by using the sway method. I'm just not sure if it's always going to work, because take Morrison for example. We've been trying to sway any of these college experience ones on him for weeks. No luck. We're still pitching his other stuff he cares about, but I can tell you right now, it has been very challenging to find players that actually care about academic prestige. And I'm just glad that in this whole process, we did find a few 4-stars. We also just somehow beat Miami by 5 points. Carson Beck must have been distracted. There's been a lot going down there for him in Miami. And basically everybody left on our board does not value academic prestige, but I'm gonna do my best to sway them. I also know that if I go after some of the 2-star players interested in playing for Stanford, there's a pretty good chance that they probably do care about it. Those guys just aren't going to be good enough to win us a championship, so we're basically done with recruiting for season 1. I'm still wondering if I'm even going to be able to fill up a roster of 85 players throughout this rebuild. And one thing I'm starting to pick up on is, especially for some of these 4-stars, it is very hard to sway them. By the time we do, it might be a bit too late, but we have been able to sway a couple of these 3-stars, which is actually really helpful. As you can see, someone like Al Pride didn't originally care about academic prestige, but we convinced him that it's also important. And then with some of these other battles, details, like for Scott Morrison, who I mentioned weeks ago, I've been trying to pitch college experience for like 5 weeks now. We're just gonna have to give up and take him off of our board. Now, it sure would have been nice to be able to hop into more games, especially after we beat Miami, but we have lost our last 3, including Florida State dropping 51 on our heads. And with 3 tough games to end the year, I can only assume that we're gonna finish the season 3-9. So I think year 1 is gonna end the exact way that I thought it would. But before we finish the rest of this video, a word from Titan, today's video sponsor. You're probably wondering what Titan is, and they're the mattress for every body. There's no more compromising between comfort and support. It's all in one mattress, and when I was searching for a new mattress myself, I needed one for my bedroom and I wanted it to be a little bit more cooling. That is why I got the Titan Plus Luxe in a king size with a cooling cover. And what I liked most about it was how easy it was to set up and maneuver in my apartment. TitanMattress.com delivers your mattress right to your front door. It's free if you're within the US. And I feel like I've started to fall asleep even quicker since making the switch. With your Titan mattress, you get a 120 night sleep trial along with a limited lifetime warranty. And the second you barely open the plastic around the mattress, it'll instantly inflate up to its size. The best part about all of this are Titan mattresses are designed, assembled, and shipped from their Arizona factory, so they're able to use premium materials at a reasonable price to you with no middleman that brings up the cost. Titan offers 3 different options: the Titan Plus, the Titan Plus Luxe, and their newest mattress, the Titan Elite. So they really have something for everyone. I love my Titan mattress, and I think you would too. If you're looking for a new bed, check out TitanMattress.com/Bordeaux to get 30% off, and it doesn't get much better than that. It was super easy to set up, and now it's time to get back to the rest of this video. There were a couple good moments, but that is about it. We did finally convince this 4-star right guard that he should care about his academics. But again, by the time that we actually pitch players on this, it's probably going to be too late because we're currently sitting in 4th place. In fact, just 1 week later, we were unfortunately locked out. And I think by now you all understand all the challenging stuff I'm going to have to do on the back end just to recruit players. We're going to get 16 in this first class before the transfer portal. But I will say, I'm still firing both these coordinators. I want to try and find some recruiters. So that's going to become one of our main goals. I'd also love to see Elijah Brown next year throw for more touchdowns than he does interceptions. I really can't criticize him too much though. It's not like we had a great running game. On the receiving side of things, he didn't have many good targets to throw to. But we did somehow have the best linebacker in the country, which is great. We have already won an award. That for sure gives you some coach points to spend, which is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that it's a lot easier to get some defensive players alongside the offensive ones that we've already maxed out. And I wish I could tell you that there was a coach that had a strict recruiter build, but that just has not been the case. We're going to have to get somebody that's both a motivator and a recruiter. What we could also do is make our offensive coordinator a bit more of an architect. I have never seen a build like this on a coordinator, so I actually want to bring in Kerry Maines, but I am a little bit afraid that he cares about a pro-style offense. We might have to switch up our playbook. We signed a couple 4-star running backs, so we're built for that anyway. Taking a look at the ACC standings, you're going to see we finished at the bottom, and we are nowhere near competing for a national championship, but we can make it happen eventually. At least I'd like to think that we can. We're about to lose some of the best players that we've had in a while. We're also going to have a lot of seniors graduating, some players entering the portal that we have no chance at convincing to come back to Stanford. But we still have these 16 new faces that we were able to sign, and I'm just hoping that one of them has something like elite dev, but the highest I've seen so far is impact, and a lot of them are normal. It'd certainly be nice if we could find a couple players in the transfer portal to help us out, but there's no deal breaker for academic prestige that'll pop up on these players, so we have to scout all of them to find out what they're interested in. And what I figured out was Edward was the only player that had a chance at even having one of his hard sells have to do with academics, but he is also not going to have that happen, so we're going to have to sway him. This is honestly just a miserable process to go through trying to get players to commit to our school, and we weren't even able to sign him, so we're going to finish with the 53rd best class in the country, though this might be one of the higher ones that we get. If there was any position that seemed to have some academic interest the most, it was probably these athletes. We have Greg Brownlee that we can move to a 76 overall quarterback, but it's important to keep in mind he was a bust, and for JoJo Cookus, I'm actually going to make him a wide receiver just since we couldn't find any this year. How much our players progress is going to be very important, but we had nobody shoot higher than an 85 overall during training results, and a class of 16 players is simply not going to cut it because in the upcoming next 2 seasons we're going to lose 18 seniors and then we're going to lose 24 with this junior class. Something that's really nice though is no matter how many 3-9 seasons we have, we seem to maintain a 3.5 team prestige, and I think it's because of Stanford's football history. Obviously, like the last decade has not been great, but before that they were really good, which does mean some top talents are interested in playing for us. We just have to make sure that they care about their academics. If their main deal breaker is proximity to home, there's like a 15% chance that their hard sell is going to have to do with academic prestige. It's just really hard to find players like that, and then we're going to go ahead and max out everything that we can go after in recruiting. I don't think that we need tier 4. We We also didn't need anything in the specialist tree. I think motivator is the next pathway that we're going to go down just so we can get quarterbacks, running backs, all of those off-season training boosts that make our players level up faster. And when it comes to this season's schedule, just like last year, it's not going to be easy because we're going to have to play Notre Dame. There's multiple teams in the ACC, even Louisville, that are going to be hard to beat. But we're just going to have to put our faith in sophomore quarterback Elijah Brown, and this is a great opportunity to use some of our red shirts. I think it's really hard to put together a recruiting board at the beginning of the season because I don't know how many of these players that we're still going to be targeting a few weeks in. I mean, once we find out they don't care about academics, we either have to sway them or remove them. And I'm even a little stubborn. I already know that this 4-star Jim doesn't care about it, but I want to sway him so we have a chance at landing him. I think moving forward though, we need to make sure for both of our coordinators that the recruiting tree gets maxed out. If they don't focus on it, then it's going to be hard to put 80 points into some of these players. And once I've invested a certain amount of hours, even if I know that we shouldn't be able to get these guys because they don't care about academic prestige, I want to change their mind and make that one of their 3 interests. Unfortunately, I can already tell this is an awful idea just off of how much time I have to spend recruiting, which is why when we finally get to play our first game, I am thrilled to do anything other than that. We could probably open up the season not facing Louisville just because this matchup might not mean much, but after staring at a bunch of recruits that wanted nothing to do with the academic prestige here at Stanford, this is all I wanted, to play in some matchups, and we're doing well. I really wasn't sure how competitive this game would be, but in the final few minutes, we're going to be up by 3. And the toughest task we have is getting them off the field, which we can't do on 3rd and 2. Instead, they get a big run. I'm afraid that they're about to score a touchdown and go back up versus us. But Elijah Brown has a few better targets this year, at least players that could improve. And I think that's why he's been able to throw for 250 yards, 4 touchdowns with no interceptions. That big completion, though, is going to come back because one of our linemen was holding. And that's going to put us on a 1st and 20, but if we just take our underneath route, Hampton can get it back. There's still plenty of time for us to win this game, especially if our tight ends keep getting separation. But this might be some of the worst hands I've ever seen. What are we doing? It is all good. I have already stared down triangle. I'm throwing this route no matter what, even if we got hit before the throw, and we have gotten extremely lucky right there. We are just surviving. We all know though, a field goal does us no good. We have got to finish this drive with a touchdown. And I've also been running down some clock, but that's not good. It's going to be 4th and 9. I've been forced to use a timeout. And my first read here is going to be the true freshman Cookus. If it's not him, it's going to be our tight end. He's actually open, but he's going to be short. And I feel like every time we have all this effort to try and pull off a comeback to beat a team that is a little bit better than us, we just can't get it done. At least there is some good news though. It only took 1 week to convince Grant Dunn that he needs to focus on his academics. And this has really become the method for a lot of these players, as some of them have up to 6 interests now. I have also figured out that I am able to sway players twice now that we can put more hours into them, which should give us a better chance at getting them to have a hard sell earlier on. And I'm just extremely hopeful that can make the difference in order for us to have a bigger class. During that process though, there's going to be a lot of players that, since we're not putting many hours into them, just eliminate us from being in contention for them. And it really stinks because the longer that it goes on for, the better chance that other schools have to catch up and then take over for that prospect. As we start to make some signings though, we're going to have a lot of free hours that we can put into scheduling visits and hopefully catching back up in some of these battles. Plus, I've simulated against both Hawaii and San Jose State, which we won, so maybe we're better off just simming instead of hopping into these games. We might need to watch out for Duke though. They're another school that is extremely smart. And at the moment, our strategy being the smartest team on the field can only go so far. We're also going to lose out on 4-star left tackle James Thomas. Arizona State got to him before we could get him to have an actual hard sell, though I'm excited about Nick Offset. We finally figured out that he does care about academics, so we could hard sell. And then Titus Wilcox is one of the rare 4-stars that cared about academics off the start. We're still in 1st place for him. He's a quarterback, so I'm really hoping that we can sign him. I am afraid though that no matter how many wins we try and take in recruiting, the rest of this season is going to keep going downhill. And that's because of our opponents, but it's okay. We need a few years to build up a solid base of players like this. It also gives freshmen like JoJo Cookus a chance to develop. That's his best game yet. It just happened to come in a 62-34 loss to the Irish. We gave up points on pretty much every drive. We also somehow lost out on the battle for 3-star wide receiver Jim Nick Offset. We have got to sign some receivers. But we've had no luck with that so far, so I'm about to stop going after California receivers, start going after Florida receivers, and just convince them to care about their academics. I'm really starting to think that even signing a class of like 15 players is going to be seen as a lot for us. And one of the places places we're recruiting surprisingly well in is Hawaii. We're actually about to get another 4-star defensive back from there. We have been going on double sways for like 5 weeks now, and finally one of these matters with academic prestige. But it's certainly a process to get some of these players signed on, which is why I'm fully open to going after 2-stars that are already considering our school, because most likely they do care about academics. We spent like the entire year just trying to win a conference game, though. It finally came in week 10 against Wake Forest, but there's only 3 ACC games left after that. And surprisingly, if we're able to win 2 of those, we'd make it to a bowl game. But that's a whole other battle that we have to take on, and you best believe I'm gonna do it. We might have beat Miami and Sim last year, but I don't think we're gonna have the same luck twice. So I wanted to face SMU and Cal, and we're in a good spot. If they didn't break that tackle with 3 minutes left, they're getting a huge run. My main hope is we could just get them off of the field, and then we'd be able to win. But Kevin Jennings seems to have some other plans, and the speed option is going nowhere. All right, 3rd and goal now. They're gonna throw straight to the flat, and I think that's the type of defense that we need to have out there on the field. I'm ready to not stop that route. I thought he was about to scramble, but it's okay. They gave us enough time to respond back, and we beat them straight off of the line. I didn't realize we had speed like that at wide receiver, but it made things a lot easier. And I just can't believe that SMU's even been able to get into this position where on the final play of the game, they had a chance to respond, but it's not going to work. Just like that, we're going to take down the Mustangs. We are going to improve to 5-5, so we have to beat Cal next week. And then we'd find ourselves in a bowl game in season number 2 for Stanford, which would be a massive deal. I really didn't think that this team was as good as it's performed so far. But if I had to guess, if there was anything that made this team play better, it's having Elijah Brown at quarterback. We got very lucky that he was the young star that was already here. And there's a few other players like Chase Farrell as well that are helping. We still need to be able to close this game out, though. They're going to go underneath. I'm going to miss the tackle. And I can't believe that they're coming out in a goal line formation, but we know the run is coming, and they're still breaking a tackle to lose yards. I hope our defense is prepared for 3rd and 3, where they're going to scramble, they're going to get enough. But I think it'll be okay. We have about 75 seconds to just get in field goal range. That is something that we can make happen for sure. Chase Farrell has been excellent for us, but our left tackle is not. And we have to be prepared for them to get off the line that fast, which is why we're already ready to run, making it a 3rd down. I'm really hoping for man-to-man coverage here. If it's zone, we're still going to go to Farrell. And I think we're in a pretty good spot. They have man-to-man coverage right here, but it's just not working out for us. The pocket has collapsed. We've gone 4 verticals on them, and it's out of reach. This could be a huge moment for the program, for this rebuild, and I think it's all going to fall apart. But Alexander's had 10 sacks this season. I have done something, though. I have decided I don't want to play for overtime. We're going to go for it with 7 seconds left on the clock. If we don't get this, it's okay. Because it's going to be way too far away for them to attempt a field goal. They're going to have a chance to get off a Hail Mary, but I don't think it's going to work. I think we're headed to OT. The risk paid off if we had an accurate pass. And I think we're still going to be all right. It's 3rd and 8. This is very clearly going to be a pass. I just can't let them scramble for the 1st down, which they almost did. There's a lot of effort going into making it to a bowl game right now, but I can't stress enough how important it is. I think the last time that Stanford did something like that was back in like 2017. So we had to take advantage of the press with Chase Farrell. He beat it. We're going to win the big game. We have dominated the Bay Area. And despite not having too much to be excited about this year, at least we can make that claim. Wrapping up the season, Miami's going to beat us by 4, so we fall to 6-6. And there is one other worry I have, that we finished so low in the ACC standings, we don't get a bowl bid. Sometimes that can happen, and I don't see our name on any of the bowl projections. But I really hope we don't have to actually experience it. The matchup would come after the Heisman winner, and we are going to play against Arkansas in the Gasparilla Bowl. We've also made more signings than ever before at this point last year. We have 18 guys that have committed. I'm actually able to go after Jimmy Beaver now because he finally values his academic prestige, but I think we're going to have to remove Donovan from our board. We just haven't had any luck here. And I was really hoping at least one of these offensive linemen would care about academic prestige, but we might just have to work on them whenever we get to the transfer portal. At least we got what we were looking for. We made the bowl game. We're going to have to beat Arkansas. And that would set this program in the right direction, despite the recruiting restrictions being, well, a bit restrictive on us. Luckily, here in the final minute, we find ourselves up by 7. We should have had that pick. And if you thought we had some bad offensive games, Arkansas was even worse than that. They're sending up another prayer. We just have to make sure they don't catch it, but somehow they got it and they broke free for a touchdown. I thought we were about to get the interception right there. This has to be some EA scripting right there. He just grabbed it above our hands. I mean, the physics won, but it's all good. We still have 42 seconds left to get in field goal range, and as long as this pass is accurate, we're going to be able to find Cookus, and he's going to go all the way for a touchdown. He's not getting stopped. It took us the entire game to start scoring a lot of points. And now both offenses have completely opened things up. I thought they were about to hit their open receiver, but instead they hit us with a pump fake. It's now 2nd and 10. We were getting in some pressure and they throw it away. I think it has been done. We're trying to come off of that edge fast. We're going to be able to get the sack. And it did not take as long as I thought it would to win a bowl. That's probably not everything it's hyped up to be though, because even though Elijah Brown is going to return for 2 more seasons, he's only a sophomore, and even Cole Tab, our starting running back's a junior. We know that our defense is not built out of all these young players like we had on offense, though look at Cookus in his first season having 17 touchdowns. There is no question I made the right decision putting him at receiver. But do you know what we have to worry about? Chase Farrell wants to transfer out because he didn't get a bulk majority of those receiving yards. I don't think he's going to come back. He was our best receiver, at least from a speed perspective, and then Micah Ford, who we redshirted, has transferred out, or he's coming back, thank goodness. Those could have both been huge hits to our roster for next year since they're some of the highest overall players on it. We got one of them back. We're going to have him for 2 more years. And before we get into the transfer portal period, I'd just like to double check that every single player I've recruited does have an interest in academic prestige. It's super easy to scroll through just to make sure that we were able to get that check mark for every single one of these boxes. And I'm very glad even Jimmy Beaver, the 3-star gym at receiver, has come around to the idea of playing for an academic institution. Some of these other guys we're just going to have to sway for a couple weeks, hoping for the best. And the reason for that is there's not many players available for us to go after in the transfer portal, and I think only one of them has a chance at actually considering our school. Now, to make sure none of these 3-star linemen commit before they care about academic prestige, I'm just going to offer them a scholarship once it becomes one of their interests. Before that, they're not going to have one. Because I don't want this team to be the best physically or athletically. I just want to beat everybody mentally. I will say that's actually working out pretty well for us so far. We were able to get 4 players in 1 week that automatically started caring about their academic prestige. But I've basically accepted that getting a transfer that does is going to be so rare that we should go after no transfers during the transfer portal period. There really just isn't enough time to reveal whatever they care about and then make them interested in our school, especially if we need to make them change their mind. But besides losing out to Nebraska for that tackle, we were able to sign 23 players in this class, and I'm happy with it. There's no way this one is not rated higher than our last. It's actually inside the top 25 with 7 4-stars. And maybe last year we didn't have a single player that had elite or star development, but that is fully changed this year. Unfortunately, Titus Wilcox is just impact, but I saw multiple elites on our defense and even some stars. This is such a weird way to do a rebuild, but I'm starting to feel a lot better about it. And I can only assume that over time, as we build a better roster up, it's going to get easier for us, but I know we have like 25 seniors that are about to leave. Don't get me wrong, I think we're about to have the best team that we've had yet, but there's going to be a lot of holes that we still have to fill, especially since there is only 1 sophomore. And you all already know how I like to do rebuilds. I like to redshirt people so we can have them for 5 years. It might hurt us in the short term because we're not going to have much depth, and our non-conference schedule actually looks miserable. We're only playing Power 4 opponents. And Washington State, I was just trying to be respectful since the Pac-12 kind of did them dirty. But after this year, especially if we could sign our first 5-star recruit, I could see us taking a major step forward. The biggest problem really comes down to how we're going to convince these players to care more about academic prestige versus everything else. I can already tell there's going to be very few players that care about it off the rip. But we're still going to go for a heavy class, the best one that we've ever had, and I would like to start the season with a win at TCU. Our team is not better than theirs, but it is still the best roster that we've had this entire time, and I love that when we get over to the wide receiver position, we have multiple guys that are going to be able to get open. With one of them transferring out, it should give JoJo Cookus even more targets, though he doesn't have that much more room to improve. And we're currently at the point in the dynasty where every team's going to be a lot better than they were whenever we first started. Every one of the base rosters tends to get up to like an 85 overall, a 90, even at the smallest schools in the country, but once those players graduate, they go downhill fast, and that's what we're kind of waiting for. We may not be thriving in the current college football environment, but we're still having quite a bit of success, especially since they're pressing, and it's only going to get better 3 years from now. Sometimes I really question what the computer's doing, but then I also have to question what I'm doing, because I let TCU back into this game, and they're going to run away with it. It has not been a pretty second half. I'd actually prefer if we didn't talk about it. I mean, there's not much that we can do with 20 seconds left unless we somehow got an onside kick, and that just means this season is not going to start out the way that I was hoping it would have. It turns out I redshirted way too many of our wide receivers, and I don't think we're going to get this right here. It's going to be short. They scoop it up, but I'm not going to burn the red shirts on those wide receivers either. I just want to get through this year, and they had DJ Lagway. There is my very valid excuse for losing. I'm sure we can bounce back against Vanderbilt, maybe not, but we can start to try and make progress on the recruiting side of things, and that's just convincing these guys to care about academic prestige. These kids should have known better that if they wanted to play for Stanford, they're going to have to value their academics. At the moment, there is just 2 players where we can actually hard sell on that. We're going to hope that we can win these battles. And then over time, land some more talent on top of that. It looks like we did win our last matchup. And then we beat Syracuse 37-10, so I might as well not play anything. We're better off simming. We are also going to have our first chance to go after a 5-star recruit because he cares about campus personality. And I'm really hoping Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend keeps him distracted so we can start this season 3-1. The man might have won like 8 Super Bowls, but I can't even blame him or fault him. We all have that same weakness, women. He's thriving, he's living life, and we're living life at Stanford right now because we have a chance to start the year 4-1. I figured a moment like that is worth hopping into. I don't want them to ruin our streak. And what we've been able to do to the Hokies is exactly what should have happened against TCU. We took a lead early on and we have not blown it ever since. We basically just had to learn from our mistakes. I mean, they have tried their best to stop us, but Elijah Brown's on a different level, and I don't think things could go any better than this. I know it's the ACC, but they're still a respectable football conference, and I'm refraining from getting too excited because I know we have tougher opponents coming up. See, to open up the year, we kinda took the easy way out. Now we're gonna have to face number 1 Clemson on the road, number 9 SMU, number 14 Washington State, number 7 Notre Dame, and our incredible spot, first place in the ACC, is probably gonna fall apart pretty quick. For the time being though, it has really helped us out in recruiting. I'm not saying that we're gonna win all of these battles because some of them we just unlocked hard sells for, but we're trying our best to even get this 5-star, and I'm just hoping that no matter what happens against Clemson, that doesn't push him away from Stanford. Like about anybody would have predicted, they waxed us 52-16. But I think if we're gonna play a 3rd game this year, it should be at SMU. This is a winnable matchup. If we can manage to come out on top of this one, all of a sudden the rest of our year's looking amazing. But do you know what the biggest issue of this whole matchup has been? The fact that we have only scored 16 points on the Mustangs. I'm certainly not proud about it, but their defense has locked us down, which they've done again. They get the fumble, and by the time we got the ball back, they were able to score another touchdown, so it doesn't even matter what we can do right here. This one is over. I really don't like that the longer the year goes on, the more that we're being humbled, but at least it was expected, and we signed Spencer Reeves, the 5-star cornerback. All of a sudden, I don't care that we lost out on this free safety to UCLA, though I think we just fell to 2nd place on Taylor Keaton, and the only thing we can do is hope that we pass up Washington next week. To make it to a bowl game again, we still need to win a couple more matchups, so it'd be nice to take down Boston College on the road. And it turns out that we did, but I do have some bad news. We have found ourselves losing another battle. We just had to convince Taylor Keaton to care about academic prestige a week earlier, and I can only imagine how much it would benefit us to also take down number 23 Washington State. That might not have happened, but I had to assume, simming against Duke in California, we would have beaten at least one of these 3 teams. We're currently sitting at 5-6 though. That didn't happen, and we have to finish up our season playing a non-conference game against Notre Dame. It's actually really sad how far we fell from being at the top of the ACC, but the way that I cope with it is even if we did lose some more recruiting battles, we've been able to sign 11 players now, and a lot of them are 4-stars plus this 5-star. At least we're looking to close out recruiting strong. Since Notre Dame's going to make us 5-7, we are not eligible to make it to a bowl game. And I can't believe how much our season fell apart, but Elijah Brown also fell apart. These stats are worse than what he had last season. From the rushing side, Cole Tabb was worse than he was last year, and even JoJo Cookus didn't have as many receiving touchdowns, so it makes sense. There is no question though that we have laid the foundation and we're continuing to do well in recruiting, so all that we really need to do is just keep that up, and then I can assume that one day the success will come like Clemson is currently having. I'm gonna need them to tone it down in the ACC though. There's still a chance that Ford will transfer out. That's basically the only player at risk, and it seems like with as many seniors as we're already losing, he decided that he didn't want to hurt Stanford, so he is sticking around, though we did put Zyron Brown onto the NFL. That's going to boost up our pro potential, which is exactly what he wanted. We also had our right guard get drafted, and I've already learned that we aren't going to touch any of these transfers because it isn't worth our time. What is worth our time is trying to convince these 3-star athletes that they actually care about academics. That might take a bit, but fortunately I started that process a little bit earlier, so some of them are already interested. We don't need to get all of them to commit either. We really just need to get a couple, and that's exactly what we did. If you exclude this one player that chose Nebraska over us, we had a class of 20 players who I think have a chance at being rated higher than our last class, but if you just look through all of this, you're going to see all of them preferred academic prestige. If I scroll the other way, I'm hoping to find some elite dev players, but unfortunately there just aren't any in this class. But it is all good. We had the 14th best in the country, and we can work with that. 12 4-stars. We're going for quality over quantity, and then for some of these athletes, there's so many different positions that they can play. I'll probably put a couple of speed rusher linebackers. And if I'm just being honest right now, I didn't realize that our team going into next season was going to have so many redshirt seniors at the top of the roster, but we're about to lose them all, including Elijah Brown. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have been developing some younger talent behind those players. But to finish out this real roster building process, I would really like if we could have another deep class like the last one, especially getting some linebackers in here. And you all already know what I'm going to do with every single freshman unless they're starting. They're getting that red shirt. If they're good enough, they could end up graduating early in the future, but I'm willing to take that risk, especially since our schedule looks super tough this year. We're not going to compete for a playoff spot. And that makes me wonder if we should even start Elijah Brown or start focusing on the development of Greg Brownlee or Titus Wilcox. I mean, the biggest issue with our current quarterback options is most of them are pretty capped out on their accuracies. Greg Brownlee can unlock another 2, but he's just normal development, and then for Titus Wilcox, at least he's a bit more open. We could always bring in some more competition as well and try to convince them to care about academic prestige. I think there's a lot of 4-stars still interested in coming to Stanford, but it makes perfect sense to me why. We have a lot of really high school grades besides stuff like our championship contender. It might seem a little bit odd though why we're not going after and putting any hours on this 5-star male linebacker. 1, he was a bust, and 2, we found so many 4-star gems that I didn't even have the hours I wanted to put into him, and we even had 2 good 4-star quarterback options. I just figured that Joe Wigham had a better chance at having something like academic prestige. I have yet to see that many 4-star gems on our board before. It's going to be interesting if we can make them care about academics, but I feel like it should be possible even if we're only beating Fresno State by 3. It was much tighter than I would have liked, but if I learned anything from last year, it's that we have to sim against some of the bad teams in the ACC, because I need to hop into the games that could be competitive, and I already know that we're going to lose to Penn State. That's just the way that things have to be though. It's not worth trying to beat them, and I guess you never know when you're going to get lucky, because somehow we took them down by 1. I actually love the spot that we're in so much right now. If you take a look at our board, you're going to see that we have 5 4-star receivers already with hard sells plus a quarterback, and also this physical athlete who could be a tight end. We have still yet to get this halfback or the center interested in their academic prestige, but it's a work in progress. And I think if we can keep on winning like this game against Miami, we're going to have no issue with that. I went into this game thinking that the playoffs weren't even in the realm of possibilities, but I saved the matchups that I wanted to hop into for the important games this season. And our offensive line isn't exactly holding up the best in this one, but if we don't get this 3rd and 17, we would have had a chance at a field goal. Instead, it was off target. They get the pick. And it even led to a touchdown, but we have worked it down the field, and this time we kept things on the ground. It's 14-14 in the rain. This one's going to come down to the wire. But you know what I don't appreciate? The fact that they were the next team to get onto the board. On 3rd and 6, we can't make it to the marker. And I have never run a fake punt before on this game, believe it or not, but I wanted to try it right here, and it didn't look the way I was hoping. If our punter's throwing motion wasn't that slow, we actually had them beat deep. They're going to beat us deep on a 3rd and 8 to the 3. And another touchdown really hurts our chances, but we have simply not capitalized on our opportunities in this matchup. Thankfully, we get the first. So not all hope is lost. It was a little bit risky to run the ball on a 3rd and 6. And I can't audible or anything. We're going to have to keep going back to the same play, which gets us to the 3. We're also going to have to get the ball back, even if we do get into the end zone, but I see it's man-to-man coverage. We should be able to catch this. And you know I like to play things aggressive. We're going to go for the 2-point conversion just because we can, and they don't learn from the last play. Here's the issue though. I would say they're already in field goal range, at least if they have a good kicker, so we need them to lose some yards. I am going to be pretty aggressive on 3rd and 6. I'm going to run commit, and we're going to hopefully be able to get them for a loss. I committed to the right side. And this is it right here. I've seen Miami make mistakes in these moments as they are going to doink it off the upright. Miami fans, you should have known that one was coming right there. We have our opportunity. They're going to leave no quarterback spy so we can run for 15. And who would have thought that we would be fighting for an undefeated season at the beginning of this year? There's still plenty of time on the clock, so I wanted to mix in a run because I figured they weren't expecting it. And I really like the position that we are in at the moment. Man-to-man coverage, I think we're going to beat their cover 2. We're going to get into the end zone. And I don't know where I even saw man-to-man at first. But it's okay. We have our 1-point lead that we are trying to protect. They have no one open. And I am trying my best to mix in some coverages so we can force some stops. It looks like they're going to test our safety deep, and Asai is going to turn around, grab the interception. Miami isn't going to be able to stop him. We might be able to just return this for another touchdown. That would be sweet. But then it would give the Hurricanes a chance. As much as I wanted to just punch it in, I think we did the right thing. We're going to try and run out some clock because they do still have all 3 of their timeouts left, and that's something I didn't realize, which is why we're going to have to take the tutty. I really thought this game was over, but that was not the case. They have a 50-50 ball chance here that we're going to snag the interception on. And it was about time that we beat an opponent like that we finished the game strong. I really think that Elijah Brown's about to carry us to a playoff spot. But even with back-to-back huge wins, we are not ranked inside the top 20 25, and Miami is with 2 losses. It really doesn't make too much sense. I guess we're just gonna have to keep on winning. And of course, throughout this time, the commits are gonna start flooding in. I guess we're just gonna have to keep up this win streak though if we want to be ranked. We're about to play SMU, and then on the road at Notre Dame. We still have Clemson on our schedule as well, North Carolina, who's 4-2. And from all of that, it feels like the tough matchups are never ending. But I think we can at least continue to keep up our momentum against the Mustangs. Going into this game, I was a little bit worried because I figured they'd probably shut us down offensively. And that's actually exactly what they've been able to do so far. But it's not over, except we just got hit, and that would have been a touchdown. Y'all are going to see an instant replay. It wasn't that bad of a read. I don't even know how to feel about it because taking off from the line, you can see we had this kid beat, but then we ran into him, which slowed down our route, and then they came in for the interception, which would normally just end the game, but I am not going to let this one slip away like that. They check it down on 3rd and 13. And even if they do hit this long field goal, it's not going to be over yet. Another interception would do it though. I don't really want to talk about it. They got one out of this as well. Okay, we're going to lose to SMU. And granted, it was me falling apart at the end of the game, but I'm the reason we beat Miami. So I'm going to do my best to just act like none of that ever happened, especially since we've already signed 5 4-star gyms, and these other 4 players should be coming in pretty soon. I am a little bit worried though if we lose to Notre Dame that all those players might reconsider. And that's exactly why, with Clemson still on the schedule, we're going to hop into this now. Like expected, they've come out pretty hot while we have not. I'm really hoping that we can throw this above those corners for a touchdown. But that was like the one good moment of this game so far. It seems like we're beating the press over there, so that's why I'm testing them. I just don't think a couple of good touchdown passes is gonna do it. If we can get another one in the 4th quarter though, that is where things would really change. But our offensive line just collapsed. Whatever happens here, we have to get at least a field goal, and that's why I'm going to Ford in the check down. Micah Ford's pretty trusted. I think I can hand this ball off to him even if our offensive lineman got destroyed. And since he's dealing with some wear and tear, we have the backup out there that has nowhere to go. That pretty much sums up why we have been throwing the ball so much. None of our hitch routes got open. And we all know that an interception would ruin this drive. We have to get at least a field goal out of it, so we're going to roll out. We're going to see if we can maybe run into the end zone. But we fell short, and I don't know if I like the idea of this, but we're going to hand it off and find our way not in. This has to be a joke. I decided to challenge the spot of the ball, but it was definitely short, and we're trying to get the safety, which we do. That gets it back within 1 possession. This game is not over yet, though I do wish our tight end was a little bit faster. And I think I can promise that a few years from now, I'll have a solution for that. It's just so frustrating knowing that we don't have that much time back there in the pocket. At least someone got open. And the playoff dreams are still going to be alive if we catch the 2-point conversion. We have to be able to get them off of the field here, though. I saw the run coming, and right before the 2-minute warning, we have gotten a snap off because I felt like we could have hit Ramsey. This is not the time for overthrows, though. A little bit of play action right here. Will we have the deep route? I think we're going to come down with it with Borden. And you know what? Elijah Brown has made up for his mistakes. Other man-to-man coverage is not going to stick. What a surprising twist. We just had back-to-back huge plays that are going to help us clutch up. And if we pick up one more first down, this game is 100% over. They've already taken their timeouts. We're going to try and keep things on the ground with the jet touch pass. We just have to get enough. And it might be a little bit of a surprise. It seemed like it could be a close call, but we did get the first down. I wanted to center up for the field goal, though, and that's when they hit us with a holding penalty, which could greatly affect this kick. We have to get a bit closer. I think even with as much as that bar is shaking, 42 yards is close enough. Hopefully this one goes near the middle. And there it is. We have taken down our rivals Notre Dame on the road. That was a tough effort. It's the first time we've won the Battle of the Legends. And with a result like that, the rest of the 4-star gyms are of course going to commit. You know who still is not ranked though? Somehow we are not up here. We are receiving some votes, but apparently we somehow have not done enough, so we're just going to have to keep on winning. Do you know what happened though? Somehow Virginia, who had only won like 2 games this season, beat us 27-25. And I think it's because of Elijah Brown's interceptions. We had 100 more total yards than that. What should have been our best season yet is just getting ruined by dumb results like that. And it at least makes sense if we had a lot of players on the injury report, but we're only missing our starting right tackle. The loss to Virginia is clearly not the direction I was hoping this year went in, but we could bounce back against North Carolina. And we did. We won 32-24, which is going to get us ranked for the very first time. I can only imagine that it has been a long time since Stanford has been in a position like this. But unfortunately, we have to play number 17, 93 overall Clemson next. That one did not go as well. We only lost by 7 though. If we finish this season strong, I mean, we're 22 in the country right now. We could still be a playoff team. We just really need all the schools ahead of us to lose because we're not going to make it to our conference championship. Our final ACC game of the year, as weird as it is against Cal. I'm still not sure why these two teams got thrown into the ACC. But I can say whether we won that game or not, I'm really really happy with how our recruiting class is coming together. We definitely aren't winning every battle, but we've been able to sign a couple more 4-stars. I think we're going to add at least 2 more before the end of the year. It really just comes down to whether or not we can convince a couple of these players to care a bit more about their academic prestige. We also beat both Cal and San Jose State, running the Bay Area again. We're going to finish this year 9-3. And if we could have just won one extra conference game, we would have probably been in the ACC championship. That loss to Virginia definitely hurt us, but now I think it's time that I start to reconsider the coordinators that we have. They're not becoming the best recruiters, and I would love to get some tacticians in here. And so for realistic purposes sake, we're going to pretend that I didn't fire them, that they got hired at other schools because we had such a great year. But of course, that's not what's actually happening. Dylan Stevenson won the best linebacker award, so we've now gotten that twice being at Stanford. We're going to get a bowl game against Memphis. And I can't lie, I'm having a hard time finding full tactician coordinators, so we're going to have to go with guys like Pat Brown. Before we take on the Tigers, it's important to note that Elijah Brown didn't have the best senior season, though he did carry us to 9-3. We ran the ball really well with Micah Ford. And I think we're just going to be more of a run-heavy team. JoJo Cookus, for the 3rd season in a row, is our #1 receiver. And we score 1 more point per game than Memphis, but it doesn't guarantee that we're going to beat them in this bowl game. It would be incredible to finish this season with double-digit wins. And I think we can make that happen, especially if we throw for a touchdown with a few minutes left. That's going to give us a 10-point lead. I mean, JoJo Cookus literally just ran straight by him. We're also forcing an interception, so Memphis does not have what it takes to close it out. And I'm really proud of how we finished out the Fenway Bowl to go to 10 wins. Besides those couple big plays, not too much drama. Micah Ford went out with a bang. And it looks like our offensive coordinator is going to be another one that has a pro-style offense, which has worked out for us just because Leon Stokes is mainly a tactician. We might not have made the playoffs this year, but we've positioned ourselves to be a playoff team in the future if we have 3 losses. And it stinks to lose Micah Ford. It stinks to lose Amari Borden. These guys are both going to be pretty high NFL draft picks. I could even see Sam Mattingly going to an NFL team. But we have to keep on moving forward, and Elijah Brown never had that amazing season I needed out of him. He was actually at his best when he was a sophomore. Those are the notable guys that have departed from Stanford, but we're still going to be an 86 overall. And I think there's a few more guys on our board we can try to sign, though. You're going to see Clemson's taking a kid, Florida State took a kid, and Oregon did as well. I feel like recently we've had a lot of incredible classes, so this one's going to be a bit more disappointing. We just couldn't convince that many kids to care about academic prestige, and that's why we're only going to sign 15 players, but I'm seeing some star devs on the 3-stars. I've seen a couple elite devs already, and that is a good sign. Whenever it comes to our wide receiver room, we're going to have no issues 4 years from now having an amazing group. And I'm happy to say for what I think is the 3rd year in a row, we've signed a top 25 class. By now, the foundation's been laid. It's all about how players actually develop. I think athlete 96 speed Ethan Clemens could make for an incredible tight end. And then for our other faster option, I'm going to move him over to left tackle for a year just so he can develop his blocking stats. We also have a few speed rusher linebackers that we're going to be able to move down to left and right end just to have a better defensive line moving forward. And sure enough, Eric Workman, the one person I moved down there, has just jumped up to a 91 overall. He's the highest overall player we have on this team. And look at the top. There's no seniors that are going to be leaving us. This is what I'm talking about with laying a great foundation. We only have one senior on this team, and he was not one of our best players at all, so we don't need to sign a huge class this year. And I am going to have to decide between starting Titus Wilcox and Greg Brownlee. The thing is with Greg, we looked at their stats last year. His accuracies still aren't maxed out, so he can go up one more notch. And by then, he would be fully serviceable, good enough to win a championship. Titus Wilcox could get better than him though, but for now, I think he's going to have to be quarterback number 2. When it comes to recruiting, you're going to see that there are more 5-stars on our board than ever before. There's 5 of them. I know they're not going to care about academic prestige off the rip, but we're going to have to convince them to. And if you take a look at our schedule, I think we should start the season 3-0 before we play number 9 Alabama. There might be one thing I need to do before this game against Fresno State though, and that is instead of going down the motivator tree, which I thought we were going to, we're going to unlock the tactician tree and make it so all of our defense gets the most stat boosts that are possible. On top of this, I would also love it if our offensive line played better than they should, because I feel like they're going to struggle. And with all of that extra help, we still only took down Fresno State by 8 points. You might think it's on Greg Brownlee, but he had a really good debut. He never had any turnovers. And against Wake Forest, I'm hoping to get the same type of result. We ended up holding both Wake Forest and an FCS school to 17 points, beating them pretty comfortably. And that means going into this game against Alabama, where we're both undefeated, we're a top 16. This is our first true test of the year, but it's probably going to be our hardest game. And I think the home field advantage has really helped us out, because basically throughout this entire one, we've been up by a possession or two. That touchdown's going to make it 28-14. And after they did nothing with it on their next drive, we are driving down the field again. Greg Brownlee currently has 300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. The run is going to work. I mean, no one's near him. And assuming Alabama doesn't pick up this 4th down, this one's going to be over. This makes me feel really good about this team. I mean, we could walk ourselves into the playoffs with no issues. And who would have thought the kid that was on our bench for years was actually the better quarterback option? By now, our entire roster is composed of players that only care about academic prestige. We have the smartest team in the country, and if I look at all of these players we're targeting, including the 5 stars, they also care about academic prestige now. I had to sway a lot of them for a few weeks, but now we just have to hopefully win some of those recruiting battles. And I think everybody being this intelligent is really starting to pay off. We just got our biggest win of the season. We're about to play 3 straight road games, though. I can still hop into 2 games this year, probably against Boston College and Notre Dame, but we have to stay undefeated before we get to that point, and we're about to play Florida State on the road. Whatever happened there, it convinced Jarris Marks, a 5-star left end, to commit. But unfortunately, we lost out on the only 5-star gym on our board. Ty Winston chose Alabama. This kid chose Oregon. We still got a lot of good signings, losing a couple other 4-stars as well. Just 7 players on our board have committed. But we had a tiny senior class. It's all about quality, not quantity. You're also going to see that we still have yet to lose a game going into these final 4 matchups. And it feels like it would almost be impossible for us to somehow miss the playoffs now. This is only season number 5. The turnaround has been a lot quicker than I thought it would be. But we are outsmarting our opponents, and we're about to see what happens against Louisville. I will say, I think being in the ACC, it does make things a little bit easier for us. But even after winning Player of the Week, we fell to Louisville, so we picked up our first loss. This is why I wanted to save games to hop into. We're about to play Boston College, who's ranked 13th in the country. And if we can take them down, I'd feel pretty comfortable in making it to the ACC championship. We have to be able to beat the Eagles first, though. It looks like it's going to be a sunny day. And that's the type of environment our offense thrives in. We've already scored 14 points. But you might notice that Wilcox is out there on the field, and it makes some sense why we lost last week, though that was a great pass. Apparently, Greg Brownlee's been suffering from a shoulder strain. He's only out for another quarter, though. We also are missing our starting running back due to a dislocated elbow. But it really hasn't affected this team too much, especially if we can hold Boston College on this 4th and goal. They're going to try to scramble, and we can't get there in time. I still think it's going to be okay, though. I mean, we've been able to drive down inside the red zone with this run. He's still going. And we're in a position where as long as I don't throw an interception, we're going to take a 2-possession lead versus the Eagles, which we didn't do here. That's at the fault of the receiver. I mean, we put that exactly where it needed to be. We're still able to get a great run. And closing this one out has not been too much of an issue for us. They're not going to pick up that 4th and 15. In fact, we might be able to return this for a touchdown and make the score look even worse. This is a great win for Stanford. We just beat a top 13 team by 21 points. And the expectation against Cal is we're going to beat our rivals by a ton. However, they beat us by 2 points. So we're collapsing to end the year with a 1-point loss, with a 2-point loss, and we have to beat Notre Dame, which is so annoying, though I know that we have the tiebreaker over both Boston College and SMU, so we might be in the ACC championship with a chance at the playoffs either way. I don't know what it is about our team, but we never seem to finish a season strong. But at least we still have a chance to do that. I think we can beat Notre Dame. We have felt the absence of our starting running back, though. I will say that. We haven't been able to score as many points. Greg Brownlee gets us down to the 2. And that's a great way for us to end the 3rd quarter. But there is still a long game ahead of us, and there's the lead. I've been pretty happy with how our defense has played. On 3rd and 7, they're just going to complete it. And that was ridiculous. They weren't going to drop that ball whether we were there or not. I've been trying so hard to get the Irish off of the field. They ran it on a 3rd and goal. And that's what it took to finally stop them on a 3rd down. They just made the kick. If we can get a field goal in 5 minutes, we're going to be able to beat Notre Dame. And I think this play is going to work on 3rd and inches. They were probably expecting a short run, though I don't see anybody open, so we just had to scramble. I'm trying to keep things as simple as I can. I didn't know this was going to be a jet touch pass. I thought we were handing it off. But that works. It sets up a 3rd and 1 where we're just going to lose a couple of yards. Well, 4th and 3, not exactly what I was expecting, but we're going to complete the drag route. And we're getting to that point in the game where we find ourselves in a much better spot. I don't know why I did that. There is genuinely nothing I can say that can defend that read. I mean, I thought it was the tight end. Everybody was just getting clamped up. There were too many guys in the area. I mean, it makes sense that they get it. But we should have just been keeping things on the ground anyway. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. I think we're going to get this ball back and be just fine. But that was just a dumb mistake that should have never happened. And on 3rd and 6, How did he get open? I think we can still get the ball back. There just wouldn't be much time. And I will continue to run commit where they are going nowhere. I really need them to pass it on third down, but they handed it off like anybody smart would. He's still standing as well. How did he just get out of that tackle? Wait, it's all going to work out perfectly for us. They called an injury timeout. That's going to stop the clock at 50 seconds. We just got bailed out because we had an injury. We didn't have any timeouts. And I can 100% get into field goal range with 43 seconds left on the clock. I can't believe how lucky we just got. There's a flag. It should have been one though. I panicked. It was actually just considered an illegal forward pass, which works out fantastic for us. I think we're going to be able to go to about midfield. We break a tackle, and I'm not on today. I know I'm normally not on. I know I normally make a lot of bad reads, but the fact that I threw that other interception just really shows the struggle. 17 seconds left now. We really only need to get about 20 more yards. That would make for a super easy field goal kick, but we're going to have to get out of bounds too, and it can't be out of reach. I'm literally going to run the exact same play back. Hopefully they do go with man-to-man coverage. They did, but we swerved out of it, and we just ended our season in another heartbreaking way. I'm going to have to process how we even lost this game for at least 10 minutes. I have had some stinkers on this channel, but that one might be the worst on College Football 25 with that interception. We're playing #1 North Carolina in the conference championship. And the worst part is I think we could beat them and still not get into the playoffs because there's a bunch of small schools that could win their conference championships and take away the auto bids. No matter what happens though, we're still making some progress. I figured it was still going to take us a few more years from this point to be a championship contender. And reality certainly hit us hard to end this season. I'm just going to start sending up some bombs in the fourth quarter. We're struggling. We've only been able to score 10 points offensively. They've had a lot of successful blitzes. But here's the thing. I cannot allow us to lose another game like this. I want to be able to at least help us win something, and we're going down at the 1. We don't have a goal line formation out of this playbook, but we do have the split T, which is going to lose us a yard. And that's fine. We're just not going to run it on the goal line. We're going to instantly roll out and probably scramble in. They were able to score a field goal on their next drive though, which doesn't put us in a great spot with 3 minutes left. We still need to score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion. And I think we're going to be able to pass this one over to the sideline, but we still need a lot of things to go right for us. And if that's man-to-man coverage, they're not getting a hand on it. It's a shame that it took us this entire game to come alive offensively, but we are now. And I think on the 2-point conversion, we're just going to try to hit our tight end on his drag route, which ties it up. This could redeem ourselves for that loss against Notre Dame. I think we might be back in the playoff picture, assuming that they don't pick up this 3rd and 10. Because this time around, if we can just get into field goal range, I will not be passing the ball. We will be running it and starting off with a decent punt return worth the 35. Now, I'm not sure how fast Beaver is, but I think that alignment over on the left side is a terrible look. It actually worked out for the Tar Heels, and we're just going to have to scramble around for like 15 yards. So now if we can just get one more gain like that, we're going to be able to go to running the ball instead of throwing, and this is exactly what we needed. Greg Brownlee isn't just a great thrower, he's also pretty talented on the ground. And with that first down, there is nothing the Tar Heels can do. We're going to win the ACC championship. With just 1 second left on the clock, we're going to kick the game winner. And I'm really hoping this is enough to make us a playoff team. I feel like it should be. We beat the #1 team in the country, giving them their only loss this season, and we're the ACC champion. I'm sure it's going to be a close call. 11 interceptions for a Heisman winner feels pretty rare. We are going to play against Alabama in the Gator Bowl, and I don't want to face the Crimson Tide again. We are number 13 in the polls, so we're just missing out because UAB got in. I can't believe that they ranked 11-2 UAB over the ACC champion, but it is what it is. It's on us for finishing the season so poorly, and we lost our defensive coordinator. As of right now, there is just one guy that's a tactician that we could hire to replace him, and I feel like everything was going so well for us, but it really fell apart to end the year. We have to beat Alabama 2 times in 1 year. At least we got ourselves an ACC championship, and maybe we wouldn't have had that much success in the playoffs. We've only been able to score 7 points versus the Crimson Tide. We beat them by 21, and then they end the season by beating us by 21. We have regressed a ton, but at least next year, Greg Brownlee's going to be a senior, so he should have some even better numbers. The same's going to be true for our running backs. Derek will be healthy again. And then at receiver, JoJo Cook has had the least amount of yards he has ever had before. He still led the team in touchdowns, though. It was an odd year for us, but we should have been a part of the playoff. We beat SMU SMU who won it all. And with only losing one player to graduation, we're going to return basically everybody. In previous seasons, JoJo Cookus was our #1 target, but we have some better players than him now. And I find it so weird that he was at his best whenever he was a freshman. Whenever it comes to recruiting, I just decided we're going to keep the 7 players that I was able to sign, and that's going to be it for this class. Nobody had elite dev. But it's not like we had that many needs anyway, and our defensive line is about to get a lot better. The power of moving players around can make a massive difference. We're going to have a 92 overall roster going into this next season. I just noticed Titus Wilcox jumped up to a 93 overall quarterback. And this is something I feel like we very rarely ever run into, but his accuracies look incredible. 98 medium accuracy, 98 short accuracy, only 91 throw power, but it'll be alright. We also still have 20 coach points to spend, so we can make sure that he plays even better by boosting his short and medium accuracy to 99 plus. And if I want to, I think making a couple roster cuts is going to make our overall even higher. If there was ever a year for Stanford to make it to the college football playoffs, this would have to be it. Looking at our schedule, there are going to be some ranked teams on it, 5. But I really think we can make it happen with this roster, and if we don't, most of these players are juniors and even sophomores, so they'd be back for another season. That's why when it comes to recruiting, I'm going to go after these 6 5-stars, but not worry about anything else after that. We've actually gotten lucky with Dwayne Adler. He prefers academic prestige. That was the first interest that unlocked. Getting him to commit should be no issue at all, but I'm a little bit afraid starting the season at number 22 Hawaii could be a problem. And I had no choice but to simulate it, knowing how hard our schedule is going to get, but we held them to 7 points, which was less than we did to an FCS school. Which should sound like great news, but we have to play Syracuse, Boston College, Louisville, Notre Dame, probably even SMU this year, so we have to face a bunch of top 13 teams. Or at least most of those programs. I know our schedule is not looking fun. With all those matchups on there though, we're just going to keep on simming. In recruiting, you can see that we're trying to pull ahead on a couple of these. But for some of these other players, I just can't make them care about their academics. And after beating NC State 21-6, we have our first big game that we have to play. We're going to be going on the road to number 19 Clemson. They're probably one of the best rosters we'll have to face. So even if some other teams are ranked higher in the country, this is going to be our hardest competition. Either way though, will it matter? I would assume probably not, though we're dropping balls. And we should have been starting this game with the easiest touchdown of all time. Now we're going to have to work on a 4th down. I don't know what all that was about, but the pitch option should work. I mean, nobody is out there to stop our running back. And we didn't just start this game strong. We've played well throughout the entire thing, which is why our backups are out there. And even our backups seem to be better than the starters that Clemson had out there on the field. We just dominated. This is good news though. I think we're going to make an easy run to the playoffs. And here's the thing. You could argue that I made this challenge easier than it would have been by recruiting players, convincing them that they actually care about academic prestige outside of other things. But what I would say to that is it is almost impossible to find players that care about academic prestige off the rip, and it's not one of the main deal breakers, so you can't even search for it. I had no choice but to use the sway mechanic to get these players to care about academic prestige, and most of the time, by the time that they do, we're supposed to lose these battles. So you can say it's cheating. Either way, we have turned around Stanford, and I also want to play at Notre Dame. If you can't tell, I am not feeling the best, so I'm really hoping we can win a championship in the next 2 years. And I don't know what has happened to me this winter. I used to never get sick. They just guarded that route perfectly, which puts us in an awful position on 3rd and 7. They're going to be short though, and this game is not going to be over, especially if that miss. We really just have not moved the ball well versus the Fighting Irish. I'm hoping that right here we can make this catch, but their defense has been shutting us down, and against man-to-man coverage, we got that throw out in time. Titus Wilcox is coming up big time for us. That's exactly what we need. He must have some sort of ability because he keeps on making all these throws under pressure, and he's about to take us inside the 15. We're probably going to have to stop Notre Dame though, which is going to be difficult. They're just forcing the fumble. And after throwing for a 1st down, I have to assume they're going to start running. I am lining everybody up to stop the run. It'll be 3rd down. And we'll see if they stick with it or they pass, which they've decided to do. And I don't think they had anything besides the scramble. There it is. We're not going to be able to beat the Irish. And I don't care about getting this kid to commit. All the confidence I had after beating Clemson just went out the window. There's other teams like Wake Forest that aren't going to give us issues. And so that really wasn't a problem. We destroyed them, but the following week, we only beat the Hokies by 1. At least with our loss to the Irish, we're still on top of the ACC standings though. And I just have to hope that we can keep things up. In a perfect world, we don't lose again until we play Syracuse to end the season, but we're having multiple close finishes. And I thought maybe Louisville would give us a challenge, but they've lost like 2 games in a row. By the time we have made it to week 13, California's 7-3, Syracuse is 8-2, and we're sitting at number 4 in the country, top of the conference, with it being almost impossible to miss the conference championship. We We'd have to lose both of these final games, but I know that we're going to win at least one of them since I get to play. And what I realized was it'd be much easier to come out on top against Cal versus Syracuse. It also feel pretty good to beat our rivals one final time. We can never run on the goal line though. I feel like I only have success whenever I throw it or I try to scramble, which might be our best option. This entire game has literally been all about Stanford, not just our offense either, our defense too, though we're running up the score. And it's kind of crazy they still have yet to get into the end zone. I wanted to make a statement though, so we held them scoreless, we get the trophy, and I'll always take a 37-0 win over our rivals. That's going to be enough to lock us into the ACC championship no matter what happens against Syracuse. Though it would be nice to also beat the Orange because we'd still have a chance to get the overall 1 seed in the playoffs. They were an 89 overall, so I wasn't exactly sure what would happen, but it seems like we beat them if we're ranked number 2. And sure enough, we finished the season with a 45-21 win. The rest of the ACC was just pretty weak this season. Boston College at 9-3 was the second best team. And I think that's why we don't have anybody that's in the Heisman running, because they didn't think our competition was good enough. That's okay with me though. We're just going to keep on quietly improving. We have 20 coach points to spend, so now all our receivers and tight ends are even better. And averaging 37 points per game. If Boston College beats us in this, I'd be pretty upset. We actually didn't beat them in the regular season like I thought we would, but that's probably the only reason that they were even able to make it to the ACC championship. And I really wish I could tell you this has been a good game, but besides playing Notre Dame this season, no team has given us a good matchup. Besides one drive, we've scored on every single one. And Boston College lost so much hope that instead of going for it on the final play of the game, they punted it back to us. We made them feel like the inferior team, but they were. We have a bunch of smart kids on here. And we also have Titus Wilcox, an amazing quarterback that should have been in the Heisman race. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that his stats were the best in the country, but for being on one of the top teams, this would normally do it. He also had a couple rushing touchdowns. And I think what it all comes back to is we don't have a single senior receiver on this team, so there wasn't a top target super high overall for him to feed the ball to. It's completely fine though. Even if he wasn't a Heisman runner-up, he was not going to beat out Stephen Coe. And it's not like we're not going to get an award. We've been finding a way to get some defensive ones. We're also going to have the best tight end in the country with this stat line. And at this point, I think they're just gifting stuff to us. What it really comes down to is we had some of the highest overall offensive linemen, so we're going to get those awards. And then TJ Philbin had so many sacks that he has to get a bunch too. Were we the number 1 team in the country though? We were not. Ohio State went undefeated. We might have to play Texas. And I was really hoping that wouldn't be the case, but we're going to get tested early. We've also had our defensive coordinator stolen from us. Our coordinators are going to get swept away whenever you have a team as good as ours, so I'll find a tactician. But knowing how many of our players are probably going to declare for the NFL draft early, I would love if we won it all this year. I have won championships with teams that are far worse than this one, but I've also lost playoff games with teams that are way better than this one, so it could go either way. At least by this point in the game, you're going to see that Texas has held us to just 7 points. They've been able to shut down our offense so far, but that was with me delusionally trying to run the football. Now that we're passing it a bit more, we're able to get open. What they figured out though was that also works for them, and I am really trying to be aggressive here. It looks like they're going with a jet sweep, which is going to lead to a touchdown. I have to give them credit though. That was an incredible handoff. On 3rd and 10, we're going to pick it up to our tight end, and we can also get guys in motion out in open space and see if they can make some plays. With 3 minutes still left on the clock, this cannot be the final drive of the game, unfortunately. And I think we're about to get held to a field goal unless we can take this drag underneath and get around 42 for the second time in this game. No matter what we say about overall, speed is literally everything. And there's a perfect example of us having the best center in the country and it's still not mattering. I don't know if I can trust this version of fullback dive, but we are using it on 3rd and goal, and we've gone up by 7 with 2 minutes left. The funny thing is Texas has been terrible with their timeout usage. They have saved all of them, which you can't take into the next round. And it's the only reason that they're going to have to send up one final play, a Hail Mary, with all 3 of their timeouts left. All we have to do is make sure they don't get it. I think they could have put a better effort together there at the end of the game, but I am not complaining. I'm happy we move on. And I feel like of all the teams we could have had to face, Rice is the most random. I guess they had a first round bye and beat Oregon by 20. That just wouldn't happen in real life. And I've already noticed it as well. Notre Dame's getting closer to the championship on the other side of the bracket. Now, as much as I don't think Rice stands a chance against us, I'm still going to take them seriously. And this is exactly why they clearly deserve to be here. This is a battle between the 2 smartest schools in the game. So in the era of the transfer portal, in the era of NIL all throughout college football, we have restored academics at this level. I also made it the entire rebuild using Stanford's playbook, but I had to switch it up so we could get fullback dive back. And I think if we stuck with it, that might have made this result a little bit different. It's not like our offense has been the best in this matchup, but we are going to be able to go up 21-7, which is something I can confidently say once we've gotten down to the one. When you have a defense as solid as ours, even if we're giving up this touchdown, it's going to be hard for Rice to keep up with our offense. We just need to recover the onside kick, which we've done right here. The Owls still have all 3 of their timeouts, but I feel like if we can get ourselves a first down, it's over. And I really don't mind going for it right here. We're just going to have to be patient on our drag, and sure enough, this play has been money all season. Like expected, we handle business. We are headed to the championship, but it is going to be against the one team that handed us a loss this season. To get to this moment, they beat Georgia, they beat TCU, they even beat Boston College. But can the Irish actually win it all? We saw what happened against Ohio State in real life this year. We're going to have to do the same thing to them. The Fighting Irish have been trying to get this trophy again since like 1988, and if they're going to do it, they're going to have to outsmart the smartest team in college football, but we're just tinkering with them. Maybe we haven't been able to score in this game yet, but I'm sure it's about to come. We're going to take our drags, of course. The easiest read for me to make in the game, the easiest way for me to not throw a bunch of picks, and there really hasn't been that many deep throws with this team. And now we might try and take advantage of the man-to-man coverage here, which works, but I really don't see this team as a bunch of receivers that can outrun players deep, which is why we've scrambled a lot and gone underneath. There's a fumble here, though, which hurts us, but it was deserved. I probably should have slid. We're up by 15 in the third quarter, and it's a good thing there is a reason Notre Dame has only been able to score so many points in this game. I really can't compliment our defense too much, though. It's when we always give up the big plays, and I think they're about to get it back within a possession. I know they have a really strong defensive line, but we're running straight at it, burning through clock, which I've done the entire drive. I'm hoping that using play action, it sets up for a huge play for us right here. Though I thought they were going to pick that. Instead, we get in with Swoop. I don't know why he didn't put his hands up, but we'll take it. And this is a hard spot to be in if you're the Irish. On 4th and 11, they threw it short. So in my opinion, they basically just decided to hand us this game, and we're going to work to get it to the end. They would never see the football again. Stanford has won it all as the smartest team. And I will say, Titus Wilcox is the smartest and highest overall quarterback I've had in a rebuild for a long time. So maybe academics did play a role there. He was one of the 2 juniors that declared early for the NFL draft. But this was just the start of what I was building at Stanford. We won it a lot faster than I thought we were going to be able to. And if you made it this far on the video, it's the off season, so go ahead, show some love, give me a like on the video, make sure you're subscribed, and check out some of the other content if you want to see another rebuild.